What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Turn on the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host, Steven Russo. Very, very special guest to cover a very, very special game. We have Antwan Staley, one of the newest members of the Jets beat, who covers the team for the New York Daily News. How's it going, Antwan? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
I couldn't be any better on a September as a Jets fan. I got to be honest with you. Steven, what about you? How you feeling tonight?
I am extremely excited. September wins. The only downside is that my wife did not record my reaction as Flacco hit Garrett Wilson for that 15-yard touchdown to then submit it to the Jets, because I think mine outdid everyone else's that were on there. No, they were all great, man. The reactions, you would have thought the Jets won the Super Bowl, but no, it's just week 2 and a September win. But man, I'm feeling good, Antwan. It's great to have you on, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so we'll kick it off. What was the feeling in the press box, all the members of the beat, when the Jets, not only the Corey Davis touchdown, but when they recovered that onside kick? Because it's like a 15% chance of that happening. What was everybody's reaction in the media room?
Well, I mean, yeah, in the press box, it was kind of like, I think a lot of people were surprised, really, with the results. I mean, after Nick Chubb scored the touchdown, I think a lot of people thought the game was over, including me. I'm not gonna lie. I think everybody started writing their stories like the Jets were gonna go 0-2, and I thought that was kind of like the worst case scenario for them, considering the rest of their schedule coming up too. So yeah, I mean, they go down, have that touchdown to Corey Davis, that was crazy, and then you're like, oh well, they get a touchdown, and they just try to do the onside kick and probably won't recover it. But yeah, to have that happen, and then you're like, wow. At that point, you think they have a chance now because they got the ball back and they have momentum, and be able to Joe Flacco to be able to complete that pass to Garrett Wilson. It was just, it was stunned. The crowd was stunned more than I think people in the press box. I mean, you're not supposed to cheer or anything in there, but I think just looking at the fans, they were just completely shocked.
Yeah. I mean, I got to ask you, did you think Garrett Wilson was capable of doing this early on? I'm not saying he doesn't have talent. We all thought he was, super talented. He was a 10th pick in the draft, but did you expect to see this, week 2 of this season as a rookie?
I mean, after the first week, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised because I thought he was the best receiver on the field, period, during the Ravens Jets game. And I just felt like they didn't give him enough touches or enough snaps. But now, I mean, they kind of went back to the drawing board. I thought Mike before did a really good job as far as his creativity and his ability to get Garrett Wilson the ball early and often. And it seems like Joe Flacco has a lot of trust in him. So yeah, I'm not too surprised, especially with him playing at Ohio State, which is, they have a ton of receivers that have come out and perform well and on the big stage early on in the league, and it seems like Garrett Wilson is going to be amongst those guys.
Yeah. So Antwan, going back to the end of the game, I mean, I obviously have my thoughts. I know that I wasn't thinking that Cleveland made a mistake by running it in. And honestly, watching the game back, you see every Cleveland fan that erupts when Nick Chubb does score that touchdown. But, obviously some fortune went in the Jets' favor, the missed extra point and whether you want to call it a busted coverage or actually like a really good dial-up play from Mike LaFleur. A lot of things had to go right for the Jets too, for them to capitalize on these missteps by Cleveland. So how much credit do you give the coaching staff for being as prepared as they were with things like the onside kick, the Corey Davis touchdown, and then the well-executed drive to not only get down the field to score the winning touchdown, but also to kind of milk the clock and be very methodical. So in terms of just preparation, because this is something I don't think Jets fans are very used to, but how much credit do you give the coaching staff for really how well they executed that last minute and 55?
Well, I think especially the offense. Well, I think, LaFleur called a really good game as opposed to week 1, where I felt like a lot of the play call was very vanilla, which I get in a way because the offensive line was, you're building it like throughout the course of the week because, of course, Dwayne Brown and shoulder injury kind of put a kink in a lot of different things, and having to move George Fant back to left and Max Mitchell to right. Yeah, it was just, not a lot of continuity there. So, yeah, I get that, but yeah, this game I felt like they, had a definite game plan of what they wanted to do and how they wanted to attack the Browns, and they definitely executed on that end. So I definitely give, LaFleur a lot of credit there, the way that he handled that. Defensively, obviously, not a lot of questions. Definitely didn't stop the run like I thought they had to if they were going to win this game. But lucky enough, they were still able to pull it out. So you just kind of hope I guess, against Cincinnati, you kind of hope you can get that both uh, defensive performance like you got against the Ravens, and then also provided with the offensive performance that you got against the Browns.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And honestly, Antwan, I want to kind of go back to you touched on the offensive line, and this is a unit that I think a lot of Jets fans had high hopes for early on in training camp, and now it's been shifted quite a bit, right? Because Mekhi Becton goes down, they bring in Dwayne Brown, who a lot of us feel really good about, and you figure, okay, he'll slot in left tackle, George Fant will go to right tackle, and then you feel pretty good about that. So now they obviously have to plug and play, and Dwayne Brown goes down, so now Fant's back to left, Max Mitchell starting at right. But how would you assess their performance through the first 2 weeks and really a pretty good test against a solid Browns defensive line, especially the likes of Myles Garrett? So how do you think the offensive line has fared so far?
I thought the second half they were better, especially against Myles Garrett and Clowney ended up going out of the game, which I think helped things there. They were able to chip Myles Garrett and kind of focus on him a little bit. It's easier to defend one pass rusher than defend two of them that can get pressure on you. So I felt like they did a much better job there. First half, I felt like Garrett was able to make some plays there. Got a sack. Clowney ended up getting strip sack fumble and recovery. So yeah, I know it's been uneven so far, but I feel like they definitely played much better in the second half than they did the first. Obviously, the first game it was kind of a bit of a disaster there. I know a lot of people blame Joe Flacco for the way the offense was performing. But if you don't have the time and the pressure's coming right up the middle, I don't know what much more you can do, no matter what quarterback you are.
Yeah, that's 100% the case. I mean, like every quarterback in the league, if they don't have protection, they're not going to be effective. Obviously, there's guys like Lamar Jacksons of the world, Kyler Murray's who can, move out of the pocket and make plays. But like a lot of guys aren't able to do that. And you're still going to make some tough throws on the run. But yeah, I agree. I think in the second half, they really settled down. And I even thought before when, it's 30-17 and I thought they were going to lose by 13, another double-digit loss. I still was encouraged what I saw from the offense because I felt like for the most part, they were in the game. They were fighting. There were some good play calls. I felt that LaFleur got very creative with some of the things he was doing, getting everybody involved. The one thing I wanted to actually bring up was, do you know why the usage of Breece Hall was so limited in the second half? I think Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic tweeted that he only had 2 offensive snaps like late in the fourth quarter. And then they put Ty Johnson in on that crucial play. I think it was in the last drive when they tied it up. Do you know why that is? Are they just trying to manage his reps?
I don't think it was necessarily that. I just think that, I think part of it was they were down. I think that was part of the reason why they kind of went away from the run, and also Breece Hall. And two, I definitely, it is a little curious there. I have no idea, to be honest with you. That was a question I don't think none of us asked in particular, because he was having, some success on the ground and also, in the passing game. I thought he did a really good job, as an all-purpose back too. Like you had Michael Carter, who did a really good job against the Ravens, I thought. And then, Breece Hall did a tremendous job too in week 2. So that's a good question. But I don't think any of us asked Robert Saleh that in particular. But maybe that's a question we could ask at least Mike LaFleur later on this week.
Yeah, definitely do that.
And along those same lines, I mean, what do you think they see? Because as a fan, it's frustrating because we're all saying that they have this 1-2 punch in Breece Hall and Michael Carter. And Ty Johnson was, a good back a few years ago as the Jets were, 0-13 or whatever they were under Adam Gase. But now it's like they have this 1-2 punch. So there's really no viable reason for fans, especially, to see why Ty Johnson's, getting reps over those 2 guys. What is the coaching staff seeing in him to put him in the game to get him in over Hall and Michael Carter?
Well, I guess they just want to do a rotation at times, and he knows the offense. So I think they have confidence in him. A lot of people thought, Zonovan Knight, was a guy that, was going to be, picked over him as the third running back. But obviously that's not the case. Knight is on the practice squad. But I just think it's just the knowledge of the offense right now, and his pass protection is probably the reason why he's still in there.
Sure.
Definitely. real quick before we kind of move away from, I guess the negatives, because there were so many, there were some negatives with the tackling and everything like that. What's going on with Tyler Conklin? I know he had a couple catches. He caught a touchdown in garbage time in the opener, but like, what's going on with him? He had a great training camp from all indications from the beat. Was catching everything his way. 2 fumbles already, and obviously it's been a little bit rough for him. I also think he was robbed of a catch on the first drive of the game when Saleh challenged it, and they ended up wouldn't overturn it, even though the guy on TV was saying it was a catch. What's going on with him? I feel like he's not really performing the way Jet fans had hoped based on the early indications.
Yeah, I just think it's like early season jitters too, and obviously playing on a new team there and just trying to get used to things. But yeah, it's definitely hasn't been the way that he even envisioned too. But he said he's gonna get some of this rust of this off, and obviously be able to hold on to the football better. And he knows that too as well. But yeah, he's definitely hasn't performed the way that I think a lot of people expected so far.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to Garrett Wilson a little bit. I know that Steven asked you the question earlier and alluded to it, but how good can Garrett Wilson be, and how much does this game impact the offense moving forward and open things up for the likes of Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and, the tight ends like Tyler Conklin and Uzama when they get him back? I mean, how much could this mean for this offense as we move forward this season, especially when you factor in the return of Zach Wilson and kind of his mobility in it as well?
Well, I think anytime you have a go-to guy like that, it changes everything because it allows other guys to be single covered and they'll have more opportunities there, like Corey Davis having that big, touchdown late in the fourth quarter, and Elijah Moore getting touches too as well. So yeah, I think having a game breaker guy like Garrett Wilson, who I think could, potentially be that 70 catch receiver there with the Jets, really opens things up for everybody else and allows Corey Davis to kind of be, a third wide receiver where you still have a guy like Elijah Moore and you have a guy like Garrett Wilson who, potential game breakers and also game changing players at the receiver position.
Yeah. I mean, it's super exciting because the Jets haven't had really this level of playmakers from a depth standpoint in quite some time. I think 2015 is the year Jet fans always go back to. And I know you were on the Dolphins beat, so you got to see Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, Ivory, Bilal Powell, and all those guys, which was a really fun Jets team with Fitz. But obviously it's been a lot different since then. Do you think that, I think you said this before, but do you really believe that Garrett could be better than Elijah? I know he has the size, so he could do the jump catches. Elijah, I feel like, is more of a technician from a route running standpoint. Do you really believe that?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Yeah, I mean, I think Garrett Wilson is a guy. I liked him coming out of Ohio State. I thought he's somebody that the Jets desperately needed, somebody that could, take the top off of a defense and stretch it. And I feel like that was something that they were missing last year. I mean, not to take anything away from, Corey Davis or Elijah Moore, but I should say Garrett Wilson brings another different type of element to their offense. So, yeah, I definitely think, it could be a possibility, especially what we saw on Sunday, that Garrett Wilson could be their number one receiver and their best guy moving forward. But it's just one game. We'll see how the Bengals adjust to it, or if they're able to adjust to it. But I like I said, I thought Garrett Wilson was the best receiver on the field against the Ravens. I just think they didn't play him enough. They only played on 41 snaps, and they definitely got the memo this week from fans and also media writers. Actually wrote that I thought they should have played Garrett a little bit more. So they definitely heard the message and decided to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Antwan, we'll flip to the other side of the ball and kind of tie up this Browns game. But I think overall, Jets fans have been impressed with DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner so far through 2 games, especially DJ Reed. I think the rest of the secondary, when you talk about the safeties, LaMarcus Joyner has left some to be desired, while Jordan Whitehead is kind of impressed as well. What's your kind of overall assessment on the corners and the safeties and how they performed through the first 2 weeks of the season?
I think they've been great. I think DJ Reed has been a great open field. He made a great open field tackle in the Browns game too. So
on Nick Chubb, right in the first quarter.
Yeah, I think he's been a pleasant surprise there, and I think that was a big addition there for them to be able to sign somebody like that, a veteran corner, especially when you go alongside Sauce, who, new in the game. But he's playing, I know he made a couple of mistakes in the Browns game, but he's relatively, I think he's playing really good football, especially considering he's a rookie. And the thing about rookie corners, I mean, a lot of times they feel like the game is a little bit too big or too fast, especially when they go up against some of these top receivers. But it doesn't seem like that for Sauce Gardner, at least not so far. Now, we'll see on Sunday because he's definitely going to get tested from that Cincinnati wide receiver core. So we're really going to see kind of like a bit of a benchmark game or a measuring stick game for Sauce Gardner and see where he really is.
Do you think it's more possible that he's lined up with Higgins or Chase? I feel like probably Higgins because he has the size where someone like Chase, I think, is like a little bit over 6 feet. Do you think that they're going to match up more with Higgins?
I think they'll switch. Like it'll be times where he's up against Chase, but it'll be times where he's up against Higgins too as well. So it's just, I think you're gonna find him in both times. I mean, both cases against both players. So I don't think he'll just match up against Chase or Higgins either way or read the same thing. I think it's just gonna depend on the type of offense that's going to be running or whatever defense the Jets are going to be running. But yeah, I imagine he definitely will see a lot of Jamar Chase for sure.
Yeah, I figured. So one of the things that Jet fans have been concerned about through 2 weeks is the safety play next to Jordan Whitehead, aka LaMarcus Joyner. It's week 3. He's still obviously the starter. Let's fast forward to the bye week. Is he the starter coming into the bye week based on what you've seen so far on the tape and also just during the game?
I guess it depends on one. If is he healthy? If he is
healthy, if he's still healthy, do you think that he's still going to hold on to that job based on what he's doing on the field?
I would say yes, probably reluctantly. Although, yeah, I know. I mean, look, you know what you signed up for, LaMarcus Joyner. I mean, I think the Jets know the type of player that he is at this juncture of his career. I mean, he's not a guy that's great in coverage. I mean, he's played out of position, when he was with the Raiders too, and the Jets decided to bring him over, try him at safety. I know he got hurt early last year. I mean, I don't think his some of his deficiencies they're not a surprise to me. Maybe they are to some people, but especially at this stage of his career. Now, maybe you can rotate certain guys out of there, but I don't know if he's playing. Then I think that signals that he's their best option. I mean, I don't know if he is, but I guess I have to trust the coaching staff and what they see, and I imagine they believe he's their best option at the other safety spot.
Yeah, I mean, it could be less about what LaMarcus Joyner brings to the table and more an indictment on the guys that are behind him, right?
Correct. That's what I think it is.
Gotcha. If only fans were calling for this for like 6 weeks up until this point, but let me ask you, Antwan, since you're in that room when Saleh's giving his press conferences, I think some Jets fans are kind of panicking a little bit about how Saleh's handling the Zach Wilson injury and return. What's your assessment of this, and when Zach really is going to be back? Are we looking too much into it in terms of thinking that maybe they're trying to hold him out for longer? Or do you really think the timeline is Pittsburgh, and if healthy, regardless of how Flacco performs, that Wilson's going to return for week 4?
I think it's the week-to-week thing. I think they're going to just see how things play out this week and how Zach Wilson, reacts to some of, a little bit more ramped up as far in terms of practice. I think that's what it boils down to. And they definitely want to make sure he is indeed 100%, because once you bring him back, then that's what it is. Like, he's the starter from there on out. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any kind of rush to be able to do that right now. They have confidence in Joe Flacco. They think he can get the job done. Flacco's throwing for 300 yards in 2 consecutive games. They believe he's good enough to win this week against Cincinnati. And then I guess we'll see, where Zach Wilson is come next weekend. We'll ask, I'm sure after the game, probably the day after that, is what's Zach Wilson's progress and if he's going to play. But right now, Saleh just kind of put it on the doctors, which I think is the smart thing to do without having people anticipate, Wilson's going to come back next week or not. But I would imagine he probably does play against the Steelers.
Sure. And I'll credit the coaching staff, because honestly, in 2 years, and Antwan, you covering the Dolphins, Adam Gase very well, but we remember when Sam Darnold went down with mono and how the offense looked in a snippet with Trevor Siemian and then for weeks with Luke Falk, and it pretty much just went into a shell and they punted on those games until Darnold returned. But I'll give credit to this coaching staff, because we saw the likes of Mike White, Joe Flacco, and Josh Johnson all perform in this offense last season, and now Flacco obviously this season. But in your eyes, how much does this offense change when Zach Wilson does return? Does it look a ton different, or is Flacco really kind of running it the way that it's designed, minus some of the mobility that you do get with Zach Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Zach gives you the ability to throw the ball a little bit deeper down the field. So you get that with him. And obviously, you talked about the mobility there and to be able to scramble outside the pocket. So I think that's probably the major things that you get with Zach Wilson. Otherwise, then, yeah, I think a lot of the things that they've been doing, especially against the Browns, that they did, it's going to be a little bit of the same. You just, probably you call a little bit more wide open play calls there. But I think, you want Zach Wilson to be able to, make these intermediate passes too. Like, I think a lot of times last year he was trying to do too much and, like he was back at BYU and just starts throwing the ball all over the field. And, in the NFL, you necessarily can't do that because the defenses are so good. So I definitely think they kind of want him to be able to, make those intermediate passes and don't feel like he has to do too much. So I definitely think, you'll probably see a lot of similarities.
Yeah, definitely. Antwan, we really appreciate you joining the show. One last question, we'll let you go. So it's a two-part question. First part is the Jets win the game if this happens. And then after that, what's your game prediction?
I can't give the game prediction yet because they have to I have to wait till we have to put it in the paper.
All right, fair.
I will say I think if the Jets, if they will win, if they are able to get a lot of pressure on Joe Flacco and Flacco, not Flacco, Joe Burrow, excuse me. Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times throughout the course of the first 2 weeks of the season. That's 6.5 sacks per game on average. If they can, muster up like 3 or 4 sacks in the game and, put a lot of pressure on the Cincinnati offensive line, and I think the Jets have a really good shot to win this game.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And I agree with you. If they could dominate the trenches on defense and obviously on offense as well with their linemen, I do think they have a good shot of this game. Antwan, really appreciate you joining the show. Everyone, if you don't already, please follow Antwan on Twitter at Antwan Staley. And he's got some good stuff coming out this week. Anything you want to tease?
Just not necessarily. Just follow me on Twitter. That's really the best place to read all my stuff, or you can go to the New York Daily News as well.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Of course. That's Antwan Staley of the New York Daily News. Steven, oh man, I know since we had him on the show, we wanted to be a little more like asking questions about the game, but now that it's just you and I, walk me through what happened with you and your wife, because I got to tell you my story as well, because it was crazy. Craziest thing ever, man.
It was nuts. I mean, like most of us, as soon as Nick Chubb crossed the goal line, I just immediately started preparing myself for, another double-digit loss, going 0-2 back home, against a Cincy team that is the former defending, AFC champion. So we're going to have our work cut out for us. I was encouraged, though, by the offense, really, because I thought they moved the ball, and the Browns aren't a bad team. It's a viable opponent. So I was encouraged by the offense. I felt overall good. I felt that, it was good that they were competitive into the fourth quarter. The defense, for as bad as it looked, I was still, I was slightly encouraged at the way, especially they stepped up kind of in the fourth quarter. There was a segment in the, midway through the fourth where Kareem Hunt just started going nuts, and he was getting 8-10 yards a clip. Yep. And he gets into field goal range, and then all of a sudden, the Jets defense just steps up and they tackle him for a 5-yard loss. Then CJ Mosley gets him for another 2-yard loss. And then next thing you know, Carl Lawson's getting a sack of Jacoby Brissett. So even then it felt like, all right, they were in the game, they were fighting, they were battling. And, you had the 2 drives in the fourth quarter, one that was stalled by a Garrett Wilson drop, which just completely crushed you. And the other was stalled by Tyler Conklin, fumbling again. Thank God Max Mitchell fell on it. So you prepare yourself for the double-digit loss and what we're going to talk about in the show and how I'm going to, go into a shell, blah, 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 blah. But then all of a sudden it turns and you're like, holy shit, they can really do this. And when he hits the bomb to Corey Davis, you're like, wow, okay, now onside kick is a long shot, but maybe they can pull it off. And again, and I said it to Antwan, there's a lot of things that went in the Jets' favor, scoring 2 touchdowns in less than 90 seconds is crazy and not very likely. Getting an onside kick is not very likely. But all the things the Jets actually had to do to capitalize on that and win the game is a lot. So credit to them for executing, credit to the coaching staff for preparing for this stuff. I mean, it was just as fun of a game as we've seen since week 16, 2015, that win over the Pats. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun, man. And I'm just happy that it happened.
Yeah, it was. And the thing is, that one was fun because it was an overtime win against a team that we hate. It was against Brady and Belichick. And, we were smelling the playoffs. But this was just absolutely bananas. I couldn't believe what my eyes. So to give you context, I was, for anyone who didn't know, I was asking people how I could watch the game at a market. I was in California at my girlfriend's family's house, and literally I'm watching it on Sunday Ticket goes out. So then I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to watch this game. I'm sure you had the same problem, right? Because you also have Sunday Ticket. So I'm like, all right, I got to find some sort of stream. I was watching on my phone, some whatever stream or whatever it was. And we have to leave for the airport. And obviously it's a close game. And I'm still watching as we're going. It's a 40-minute ride. So we're in the car and I'm just so obviously pissed because that's when everything that happened with Chubb scoring the touchdown. And I'll say this, when he scored the touchdown, I wasn't questioning that, but I will say when Kareem Hunt went out of bounds those two times, and I think he went out of bounds and Chubb went out of bounds. I'm not really sure. Whatever, there was two times. I was saying to myself, why are they going out of bounds? I'm they just have no timeouts. What are they doing here? But that was the only thing. But when they scored the touchdown, like you said, I wasn't thinking about, oh my God, they gave the Jets a chance. I'm oh, here we go again, double-digit loss. The receipt stuff is going to come back. And I was ripping Sal on Twitter. I'll be the first to admit it. I literally said, and I will own this. And then, of course, I said I'm an idiot. I literally said, if Sal thought that this week was hard, wait till he sees what tomorrow is going to be like. Yep. I will own that. I was so wrong. And then, all of a sudden, they run the one play to Conklin. And then Corey Davis, literally, I've never seen such an easy Jets touchdown. Yeah. He was running, he wasn't running for his life. He was just Ghosting. I can just go in. It's it was the easiest thing. And I'm oh, all right. It's going to look better on paper. And anyone who took the Jets, I guess, what was it, +6.5 or whatever it was? Oh, they get the cover, which is great. Yeah. So good for those people. I'm all right. So they're going to onside kick it. We're not going to onside kick it.
I know.
And I see Braden Mann. I'm why is Braden Mann doing this? I'm of all the people.
I know. We'll and feel he's talking about Zerline, and how he's got this experience as an onside. And I'm you're not looking at what's going on, actually, man, because Braden Mann's actually out there for it.
And I don't want to rip Jay Feely because he actually was a decent kicker for the Jets. But come on, man. Know who's on the field. You don't have people in your ear, whatever. So then that happens, and I'm oh my God, we have a shot of this ball. Ball. What's going on here? And then all of a sudden you see Hardy literally gets it. Will Parks makes the play to help put Hardy in position. I'm all right, we got a shot. Let's see. And then I'm man, is Flacco really got this magic in him? And they're driving, they're making some plays. I just was oh my God. I'm screaming in the car as we're a little bit close to the airport. Chelsea's mom is driving. Chelsea's in the front seat. They're I'm listening with AirPods in. They're what's going on? I'm the Jets literally just took the lead. They took the lead. They're what? I'm they took the lead. And then obviously I'm it's not over, but there's not a lot of time left. So obviously Brissett, has that crazy scramble. We're all just here we go. Here we go as Jets fans. Because that's what we're programmed to do of everything we've seen.
Yeah.
And of all the people, the man played one defensive snap all day. Ashton Davis, baby, justified that third-round pick. Joe Douglas drowning his face in high noons because he's see, I told you. I'm just kidding. But, man, good for Ashton. We've all been ripping him. Listen, he's an NFL player. I want him to succeed. I want my team to be good. But, man, it's just – I don't even know how to explain it. And we're we get to the airport, and I'm we're about to go through security. My dad's calling me. I'm Dad, I'm going to security. I'll call you when I'm back. And I'm Chelsea's literally to me. She's I've never seen you like this. I was on cloud 100.
You're happy.
Not cloud 9. Cloud 100. It was the best. This fan base deserves it so much. Oh, I know we ripped some of the guys on TV, Grady, Beningo, whatever. And I'm a Beningo fan from his time on the fan, but as a Jets fan, how could you not be it was just unbelievable.
It was awesome.
I woke up yesterday morning on Monday morning. My coffee tasted better. I had this extra pep in my step, man. Like I hadn't felt that great since Sam Darnold won that game because they finally broke this schneid of not winning those games. I mean, Garrett Wilson, man, this kid, like, I love the pick, and we've been talking about it since the draft happened. We first did our show, like, to recap the draft, that we love the pick. We couldn't believe that, like, they actually picked him, because we're like, they'll overthink this, because he's like Drake London's been good too, no doubt about it. But Garrett Wilson, man, like, this kid could be a superstar. Like, I don't want to, like, say, like, the DJ Reed comment of, oh, he could be like Justin Jefferson. Like, let's calm that down. But man. So
I have to ask you, was this Chelsea's parents' first exposure to you as a Jets fan? Like, full on, that they got the full experience. Well, at least it was a win and not a lot. I mean, so that's good. You didn't really ease them in, but at least they get the exposure and you're good to go from here on out, right?
Well, like, they're laughing at me because and, like, her uncles are laughing at me. They're like, he's passionate. Like, you can't, like, they're Niners fans that, they're invested into those teams. And they're like, how could you not respect it? He likes this team that's been historically terrible. And her dad was telling me over the weekend, he was just like, when your co-host Steven was talking about all those guys who played quarterback for the Jets on your last episode, because he listens, he was just literally like, man, they've had so many guys. It's taken so long. And he's just like, wow, it's tough for these guys. But
it is, man.
I
know. Yeah, my
experience, be bad about the tackling and all that stuff, but like, who cares?
I know it was a fun game. It was well deserved. My experience was a little different. I got to tell you that Sunday was actually my wife Stephanie's birthday. So Saturday night. Steph. Happy birthday, Steph. Saturday night we went out, and maybe she was a little bit tired / hungover on Sunday during the game. So she had drifted to sleep on the couch as the Jets fell down 30-17, and then I woke her up screaming when they recovered the onside kick. So she woke up a little bit with the Corey Davis touchdown as I'm sitting there saying, okay, all right, here we go. And then the onside kick, and I woke her up screaming. And then she kind of like got out of a daze of what the hell's going on here. And then from there, it was just bananas and it was crazy. But I got to say, man, I think you're absolutely right. There's been too many times where we've been in the Browns fans' shoes. And we've seen that we've seen that movie before. So to know that it came to fruition in September, we got that monkey off our back. Next up will be a division win. It just felt good. It felt good to get a September win. It felt good to have a fun one go in our favor. Now we're on to Cincy, which on paper seems to be a pretty good matchup, but we know it's tough. I mean, you can talk about Cincinnati having their backs against the wall, but as Will Parkinson pointed out, so do the Jets, and this is just as needed as it is for Cincy, as it is for the Jets. So it's going to be fun. I mean, as you look to the positives about the game, you really gotta point to Joe Flacco. I mean, he was pretty good on Sunday, and Garrett Wilson, obviously, what's that?
Really good, not pretty good. He was really good. And I'm not even just saying, obviously, what he did the last 2 minutes. Like, other than the fumble, he didn't do anything bad. I mean, he missed a couple throws, but there were some drops too. I mean, Garrett Wilson, I'm so happy you're doing something. I wasn't mad at him because he obviously had a great game before that, but like, Joe was good. Like, make no mistake, he was good.
100%. And it just makes you feel good because we feel good about what we have in Elijah Moore and guys like Michael Carter. And even though, like, I was a huge part of the Conklin Hive, I think there's no question that he's gotta, come to the expectation. I think these two games were a bit of an aberration. He's gonna, get back up to the standard performance that we've expected. And you look at Elijah and he's so smooth, man. And even he's just had 3 for 41, but he was wide open, man. And like, you just think about kind of how they can yin and yang a little bit. And if they start gearing towards Garrett Wilson, how much that opens up for Elijah. And if they start gearing towards Elijah, how much that opens up for Garrett. And then you throw Corey Davis in the mix, who is a hell of a third receiver. And that's exactly what he should be. So these things can all kind of stack up. And I mean, who knows what could really happen? If I were to point to some things that are concerning, I think obviously the defense did not perform the way that I would have hoped. I know the Browns offense is good. They have a great offensive line. They have a great running game. But if you look at it, honestly, Jacoby Brissett had 5 incompletions that whole game. Now, he was checking a lot down, throwing a lot of screen passes, but the Jets couldn't seem to defend it. And honestly, 5 incompletions. One was obviously the last interception there. One was a drop by Njoku. Another one was a should have been catch by Njoku in the end zone. So like that's the kind of stuff that's kind of concerning because this is a pass heavy Bengals team, even though that offensive line isn't nearly as good as the Browns. How that looks with the likes of, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow thrown to him, that can be concerning. So it'll be interesting how we stack up and what Ulbrich and Saleh have to dial up to maybe get some pressure for this D-line.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Play a similar defensive strategy. I mean, that you had. I mean, obviously it's a different type of quarterback and a different type of offense, but like if the defense could play the way it did against Baltimore, and obviously I'm not expecting Flacco to throw 4 touchdowns and 300 yards again, but listen, Mike White threw for 400 yards against, 300 yards for Flacco, but 400 yards against them last year. Anything's possible. Their defense, I wouldn't say is like elite. It's a solid defense, but it's like, I don't think it's like miles ahead of the Jets defense. I mean, listen, the Jets back end is clearly the issue right now. We've noticed that, and obviously some missed tackling. Carl lost a revenge game, so he's going to be a little bit amped up because they let him walk. I do think it's been pleasantly surprising that they haven't had too many injuries. A couple guys got nicked up here and there, but Uzama was really the only significant piece who's been hurt, other than the guys who've been hurt, like Becton, Zach, and Dwayne Brown before the first week. I just want to see the tackling better, and it was much better in week 1. So let's I'm going to give them a pass because they won the game and it wasn't as bad week 1. So it's not like it's like a continued trend. Yeah. And I think Salah's going to clean that up. But like, think about what we were talking about, in August. We're like, just get 2-2 out of the first 4 games. Yep. It's very much on the table. They're on pace for it. I still think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to split these next 2. I don't know how it's going to go, but I do think in some way they'll be 2-2 going into Miami, who looks a lot better than I will admit I thought they'd be. I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle were great. I'm not a Tua fan. Kudos to him. I mean, I think he was unbelievable on Sunday, but I need to keep seeing it. Like, he's not like Josh Allen. I was in a similar boat. After his second year, I was like, I mean, I didn't think he was like the way Tua is, because you actually saw like the gifts. You saw the arm. You saw like the his ability to run and everything like that. He was just like missing throws and wasn't as efficient as a passer. But I need to see more from Tua before I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like a really good quarterback. I mean, prove me wrong. He could, but I very much think the 2-2 is on the table. It's what we were clamoring for. No 0-4, no for September. We're feeling good.
Off the schneid.
Off the schneid. Adam Shine said 0-9, not happening. All right. But yeah, it was, listen, man, one of the best Jet wins I've ever seen. It's not even a question. Yeah, it's like it's up.
And now it comes down to what they can do with it. And honestly, I mean, I go back in history. You talk about the New England game they won in 2015, and then that's followed by a letdown in Buffalo. You talk about the Monday Night Miracle, which is as fun of a game as I can remember. But honestly, what people forget is that the Jets went 0 for the next 3, and then obviously end up missing the playoffs and losing their last 3 of the season that year. That kind of mars that memory as well. So it's really all about how Saleh can get this team to respond. A lot of times with young teams like this can kind of spurn them in the right direction, and you see it, and then all of a sudden you believe it, and now it kind of gets that positivity and that mojo flowing a little bit, and then more success comes from it. So it's really up to Saleh and this coaching staff and this team to capitalize on this and make sure that it's not just, oh yeah, remember that was fun. That no, now we know how to win. We know that this is possible, and we're going to turn it into something else to make it even a more positive as the season rolls on.
Yeah. One interesting quote that I really liked that I saw, I think it was Sheldon Rankins. I might be wrong, and I apologize.
You're right.
Somebody else.
I know what you're talking about. It was Sheldon.
Just saying how a game like this gives this young team that hasn't experienced a lot of winning the confidence to know they could do it again when their backs are against the wall. Think about this moment of when nobody thought we could do it. Not even everybody on this team thought we could do it. I mean, there was guys on the team that thought it was the game that they were tied after the extra point. They didn't realize that Cleveland missed it, which is funny to think about. But it's true. You don't understand that the NFL is such a crazy sport where it's like sometimes it's a couple bounces here and there that determine the outcome of the game. And look at it. It definitely determined the outcome of the Jets game because a couple things went in their favor that you wouldn't expect. And they walked away out of Cleveland on top.
Yeah. I think you called it confirmed validity. Excuse me. That's what it was.
Yeah. I love it. One person, he's also vindicated beside Ashley Davis, Braden Mann. I ripped him. You ripped him. We all ripped him. Not only did he have that onside kick, which was beautiful, he had some good punts in the game.
Pinned him inside the 5?
Yeah, a couple times. But, man, that fake punt was beautiful. Beautiful. Credit to Salah for being aggressive. I know we all were thinking at the time when he lined up, we're like, it's 4th and 1 at midfield. Are you serious? Obviously, they knew that they were doing that, so it was like whatever. And it was smart because it clearly threw the Browns off guard. Perfect throw. I know I made a joke, or somebody made a joke that he had more yards than Flacco at the time, which is like the saddest thing you'll ever see on Sunday. But he deserves the game ball, man. Besides him and Garrett Wilson, and I guess and Flacco deserve all the game ball.
And Ashton Davis.
And
one pick. Come on, man. Give it to Ashton Davis. Give it up. Listen, all the talk we have about he's got a nose for the ball. The guy is terrible, but somehow has 3 or 4 career picks. I don't understand it.
All right, fine. Game balls, Garrett Wilson, Ashton Davis, and Braden Mann if you have to do all 3 fast. But you could also make the argument for Hardy because he recovers the onside kick. But
True.
No, it'd be Braden Mann because multiple things. And even Greg the Leg Man, 57-yarder wasn't a chip shot. Think about that. You gotta give the credit where it was due there.
I mean, the units that underperformed in week 1 came back and overperformed in week 2. So now it's where let's get the balance. Let's get, the offensive and special teams performance. You're not going to get 57 yarders every week. You're not going to get onside kicks every week, but let's just get the balance and have the defense perform like they did in week 1 with the offensive and special teams performance kind of balancing out like they did in week 2. The other credit that I want to give is really to the coaching staff. And we alluded to it here with Antwan, but Mike LaFleur being self-reflective enough to say, you know what, I didn't give the playing time to Garrett Wilson like I should have in week 1.
Respect. Let's
give him 42 snaps in week 2. And those 42 snaps will give him 14 targets. That's insane. So let's also hope they take that same approach with Breece Hall. I know you brought it up. He only got he got 7 carries for 50 yards. And the playing time share between him and Michael Carter was very lopsided towards Michael Carter. So let's see the same kind of attitude and same kind of self-reflection and ability to look in the mirror from the offensive staff and Michael LaFleur to say, you know what, this guy is a hair away from breaking off a 50-yard, 60-yard touchdown run. We need to get him on the field more because it's definitely not like Michael Carter and Ty Johnson are the only ones that can catch passes out of the backfield. Breece Hall is a good receiver. It was his MO at Iowa State. He clearly caught a touchdown on Sunday. So let's get him involved more. Let's make that split a little more even so that you have that balance there as well.
I think it will be. And I think Michael Megan of Toronto Jets alluded to this in our Slack because we were talking about why he wasn't in the game. And he was saying something that was interesting. And I didn't really think about it is I think that they're using this approach similar to what the Colts did when Jonathan Taylor was a rookie. It's like you're easing him in a little bit. And since you do have a capable, 1B running back in Michael Carter, they want him to be fresh out of the stretch and also not give him a Derrick Henry like workload, which they wouldn't do anyway. But that logic does make more sense. But in my mind, it's why is Ty Johnson playing on the biggest drive of the game when you have those two guys? It's not, I'm fine with them mixing it up between Carter and Breece because they're both very, very good players. Yeah. But Ty Johnson being on the most important drive of the game just drove me crazy.
And Antwan, saying it's knowledge of the offense and pass protection. Come on. I mean, we've seen.
I heard that about Garrett Wilson last week
for 2 years. Yeah, I'm not buying it. So really, in my eyes, there's no viable reason as to why Ty Johnson should be getting reps over either Hall or Carter. But that's neither here nor there. It's really up to the coaching staff. But
listen, LaFleur. Give him a lot of credit. Like you said, he did what he needed to do. He admitted where he was wrong by not giving Garrett Wilson more work, and he did it. I mean, like I said first week, he wasn't good. I didn't like the game plan. I felt like they abandoned the run. I felt like they were really balanced. I know Flacco obviously threw for a lot of yards, but they also ran for a lot of yards. I think it was just a good approach to, attacking the Browns where they felt like they had some advantages, specifically in the secondary. I mean, Garrett Wilson cooked that one guy. I forgot who it was. It wasn't Denzel Ward, but I know Denzel Ward was the guy who had a miscommunication on the Corey Davis long touchdown. But you pointed this out. I think that Connor Hughes had said that was something that was kind of building the whole game.
Yeah,
that is good coaching. Recognizing that there's an opportunity to be had in a situation like that. It's you're seeing that if Corey does this, he'll be wide open down the sideline, and just. You never know.
Perfectly timed, all part of a long game chess match from Mike.
That's football.
I mean, that's 100%. It's excellent coaching and knowing exactly when to dial it up. So Kudos to the coaching
floor.
staff, man. I know it's
Mad
you know
scientist.
what? Yeah, they brought me back in. I was down and out last week, and I said, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I saw it, and here we go. So you want to move along to thoughts on the Cincy game and predictions?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this a little bit before. I think they match up well. I mean, I think the fact that the Jets lost and the fact that the Bengals lost and they're 0-2 and the Jets beat them last year and they're desperate, it makes me worry a little bit that this could be like their, the get right game and the Jets come off a high. I mean, I don't think the Jets are going to get blown out or anything. I think they're going to compete. I think it's going to be a fun game. I mean, think about it. We win one September game. We got Ian Eagle on the call. We're like this close from Jim and Tony. This close. I'm just kidding. I'll go prediction. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be, to the end. I think it's going to be different than the Mike White game. I think, they realize some of the things, but the Jets are also a different team. It's not the same team that the Bengals are. It's a much more talented team. So they're not taking us lightly. We have a better record than them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Bengals 27, Jets 24. That's my prediction. What about you?
All right. So, yeah, I think the keys to the game really will boil down to if the Jets defensive line can perform up to really what we've expected them for over a season now. And it's a banged up offensive line for the Bengals. They haven't obviously performed. Antwan mentioned it earlier on the show. They've given up 13 sacks in 2 games. I mean, that's not great. I think obviously Joe Burrow looked rusty in the first game. That could have been, part of him just having a non-existent / slow preseason where, it's still part of a warm-up, but he didn't look great. I think the Bengals being pass happy kind of bodes well for us as opposed to, being a run heavy team like we saw last week. So,
but they may use that to their advantage, knowing that Mixon can cook us a little bit.
They may, but you know what? Mixon is a great running back, but he's not a 1-2 punch like Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So I think it could bode well for the Jets, but ultimately I agree with you. I think that it scares me that the Bengals are 0-2 with their backs against the wall. Now, this may or may not be, the Bengals team of last year because the Bengals are kind of a cursed franchise, just like the rest of us, man. So you don't know, but honestly, I think it's a fun game as well. I think ultimately the Jets fall short and it's 24-20 Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, good stuff. Listen, if either of our predictions that they lose by a field goal and they're in it the whole game,
yeah,
I'm not gonna be upset. Go into Pittsburgh, steal that one. I mean, who knows what happens? They're playing on Thursday. If it could be Kenny Pickett's first start, depending on what happens with Trubisky. It could be a very winnable game. I mean, like I said, 2-2 is fine. They get there. I can't complain as a Jets fan considering the football that we've seen over the last, decade, really. I mean, obviously there's been some flashes in the pan with some things with Fitz and everything like that. But man, it's tough to top the feeling that we've had.
I know. And honestly, man, self-admittedly, I'm kind of, trying to work the juju a little bit here because I picked them to lose last week and they won. So
but I picked them to win.
I know. So you're throwing everything off here, but let's just see what happens. But honestly, man, as long as it's close, I'll be happy. But I agree. I think we had our sights set on getting out of September at 2-2. Well, really the first 4 at 2-2. I think they have a legitimate shot at both of these next games. So we could very well be talking about 3-1 at the end of this. Let's just hope it's not 1-3, but going against a Bengals team that has gotten beaten by Mitch Trubisky and Cooper Rush, and then also seeing Mitch Trubisky a week and a half from now, things could bode well for the Jets here. You walk in, at home against Miami at 3-1, and holy shit, that's going to be exciting times.
Yeah, and think about this. Like now that we've seen 2 weeks, the Bronco game doesn't look nearly as scary as I thought it was. I mean, Nate Hackett looks like one of the worst coaches I've ever seen. So it's like you look at the schedule from the beginning based on last year, but things changed so much. The Titans were the number 1 seed. They look so lost. They lost to the Giants. They got absolutely waxed with the Bills. You just don't know year to year. Like you said, it's why you play the games. It's why it's the NFL.
It's why panicking about the schedule in April or May when it comes out is just crazy. And even more so in August because we have no idea what's going to happen.
And I really think that getting that September monkey off their back and not starting out 0-4 or whatever, 0-3, it makes a difference for a young team. It gives them the confidence that they need. So
100%.
Listen, we were ripping on them last week. We were upset. We were worried and everything like that. I said this last week and I'm going to repeat it. Winning will make me shut up. Winning will make every Jets fan shut up and we'll just enjoy it and we'll stop complaining. Like, Yeah, I was mad about Brees Hall not playing in the fourth quarter. They won the game, so who cares?
Yep.
Do I not want that to happen in the future? Of course, but it's just win. Winning cures all. You can talk to any Giants fan. Did they expect to be 2-0? Absolutely not. And they're riding the wave, and as they should. They absolutely should. And New England doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Like if the Jets can't split with them, it's a problem. Like they have looked terrible both games. I know they won. But if you talk to any Patriots fan who's like not a homer, they'll tell you Mac Jones looks bad. Their defense is why they beat the Steelers. It's not because of Mac, and that helps the Jets. So,
and honestly, I mean, the NFL is a tough league, and the Jets aren't a good enough team to complain about how you got there. So, no matter how you got the win, you take the win, you get the hell out of there, and that's it. We're 1-1. Doesn't matter how it looked. That's all that matters. On to week 3 in Cincinnati.
Listen, only Jets and Browns fans are going to remember this game the way it happened in terms of what's beyond the wins and loss. Everyone else is going to forget. We're never going to forget because it's one of the best moments of our lives as a fan of the regular season. But like you said, doesn't matter we get there. But any closing thoughts before we wrap up the show?
It was a fun week. It was a fun Sunday. It's been a fun couple of days. I have watched the replay on the NFL Game Pass or NFL Plus or whatever, probably 3 or 4 times already, which is crazy. But it's good, man. I can't. You know what? It's just exciting. It was exciting for this young team. It's exciting as a fan for the Jets to have young offensive talent like this and to come out with a win like that was it was a lot of fun. So I hope it continues, win or lose, as long as you get me out of my chair and I'm jumping up and excited and stuff like that. That's all I really care about.
Exactly. And Sunday showed you like all the on paper. Oh my God, the Jets have nailed their last 2 drafts. You're finally seeing the hypothetical come to life. I mean, long way to go. I'm not like saying, like Joe Douglas, extend the guy, but you feel good about, number 10, you feel good about Sauce. I mean, it's
and you can't go without mentioning AVT. And I know that Connor did it on Badlands. I mean, he has looked every bit as good as advertised and well worth the trade up last year to get him. I mean, he
Seth
is
Walder. How you feeling now, man?
Exactly. I mean, he is, I think, unequivocally the Jets' best offensive lineman right now, and
it's only debatable.
I know, and still ascending, which is just great to have. So, kudos to Joe Douglas for making that move, and great job by AVT. So hopefully it just continues.
Real quick, another honorable mention. Shout out Max Mitchell, man.
Yeah,
he's doing a good job. Like he's not a leader or anything. He's holding down the fort. He's a 4th-round rookie. I expected, as the Jets fan, I expected like Wade Hunter, level of play because, that's who we are.
Yeah.
He looks more than fine. Like, I know he got beat. That led to the sack, but it's
I feel like that was more on Flacco than Max Mitchell.
And I agree with that, but I just want to, keep everything honest. Yeah. And he saved Conklin's ass with that fumble recovery.
He did.
So.
And a credit to whoever pointed out the Jason Fabini comparison, 4th-round pick, starting rookie year that I think 98 with Parcells. So, and he was a longtime starter for us at right tackle. So hopefully Max Mitchell can follow that same career path.
Listen, I'm in the belief it doesn't matter where they took the guy. If the guy can play, I don't care. Like I said 100%. I said this in the preseason. What if Clemens is better than Jermaine Johnson?
Doesn't matter.
Care.
You get an edge out of it.
If one of them's good, it doesn't matter what you spent. Like just get the players on the field.
100%, man. It was fun.
This was a fun one, I gotta say. But just a reminder to subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify. Turn on the Jets Live if you search it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/turnthejets.tv. If you have not, definitely subscribe to Badlands on Patreon. Steven has his weekly 1st and 10 column, which just came out actually as of this morning on Tuesday. Plenty of great stuff from Joe and Connor. I'll be writing some stuff. I wanted to get to something this week. I just haven't had the time, but it will be coming, and I promise you all. But it's great. And also check out the store. We have the 17 is him shirts that Joe had just released earlier today. It's a must buy for all Jets fans because Garrett Wilson might be special, and we're really witnessing something that could be unprecedented as a Jets fan. A 1st-round wide receiver who's a superstar, because we haven't seen that. We've been asking ourselves, when can we get that? Maybe we have that. It's exciting. That's all I can say. Appreciate everybody. Make sure to check out the show next week when we recap the game against the Bengals.